So let's now look at interactive inputs. So I have a file on the left called ioinput.py, and this shows 3 different ways of doing input from the user. So let's run this file on the right. So let's call Python ioinput.py. And the first method uses raw input. So I'm here and I have to enter something. So let's say hello. So the user input was hello and the type is a string. And now the program that I wrote asks me again the same thing. So if I wrote like 121, then the user input is 121, but this is actually a string. Okay, so if I entered hello dot upper, this is also a string, right? And this is the user input, and this is what it's returned. So you can actually just treat that as a string. Okay, so I'll press enter now to switch to the next mode, the next loop here, because if not user input, there is a break. So I'll get there to the break by pressing just enter. Okay, so now I'm asked to enter something for raw input, and this will be evaluated. And it says, so be kind. So let me just first show examples and then see what happens. So the first example is hello. So this is evaluated, but this breaks the program because hello is not known. So I'm trying to evaluate the string, and this just doesn't work. So let's start again. Let's skip the first round, and now I'm back to something is asked from me to be evaluated. So actually, let's try 121. So let's see what happens. So 121, the input is of type string, but the evaluated user input is 121, this time of type int. Okay, so this is the main difference. This input has been evaluated. So let's look at another example. Let's say I look at the dictionary A1 like this, and this is evaluated, and you can see that this is what Python returns once it understands, once it evaluates that thing. So for instance, the quotes have changed. There's some spacing that has been added. Okay, so I can basically enter commands here, but I enter them as strings. So before I had entered this command, and it was completely ignored by Python that this was a command. It was just treated as a string. So here, in the first place, it's treated as a string, but then it's actually evaluated. So this is the evaluated user input. It will be hello. So it's the result of evaluating that whole thing. And that's why I'm saying so be kind. The reason is that it's very dangerous to do. You're asking some input from the user, and then you will evaluate it. So the input of the user could actually be a full Python program that does really nasty things. For instance, just deletes all the files on the file system, or sends spam, or whatever, things like that. So in general, using eval, which is what I'm doing behind the scenes here to evaluate, is a bad idea. And what input does, which is the third method, is essentially the composition of raw input and eval. So I wanted to have this intermediate explanation here to really try to explain what is going on. And input here just packages the composition of raw input and eval into one place. So in summary, it's also a bad idea to use input. Do not use input for anything that is not run just by you. Okay, because it's dangerous. It can lead to problems. So let's go to the next loop, and again I have to enter now something to evaluate, but I have to be kind, not to enter code that is intentionally mean. So if I write this, for instance, again this is evaluated, and this is evaluated to a type dict, and it gives this. If I enter that, it will be evaluated to a type int, and this is printed back. If I enter a very long integer, it will be evaluated to a type long, and then it's printed back like this. Okay, so this was for input, raw input, and a bit of eval. And again, the message, the take-home message is that you have to be very careful when you use input, and or even when you use eval. You should really only use raw input and be very careful with what you get passed there before evaluating. It's so dangerous, in fact, that in Python 3, the function input was changed to behave like the safer one, like raw input. So there is no immediate way now to directly evaluate the input. You have to explicitly use eval to evaluate a user input, so that there is no, I mean, if you do something stupid, it's really your fault then. You see the point there. The Python wants to force you in Python 3 if you're to do something stupid yourself, and not it won't do it for you if you want. Okay.